When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And at Wiener Schnitzel, when life gives you sweet watermelons, delicious wild berries, and refreshing coconuts, you make 3 thirst-quenching, ice-cold southern lemonades in flavors that you can't resist. And when life gives you crispy bacon, grilled onions, and savory sauces from Texas, Kansas City, and Carolina, you make tasty barbecue dogs. So this summer, when life gives you cravings for deliciousness, head on over to Wiener Schnitzel and try our Tastes of Summer with barbecue dogs and southern lemonades today.
If dog people made dog food, it definitely wouldn't look like dusty, burnt brown pebbles. Ugh. It would actually be food. It would be made with real, fresh meat and veggies gently cooked to preserve their nutritional value. You know, like food. The Farmer's Dog was created by dog people who cook and deliver fresh, healthy food. Try the Farmer's Dog and get fresh, pre-portioned meals tailored to your dog's needs. Tell us about your dog, build your plan, and get 50% off at thefarmersdog.com. That's thefarmersdog.com.
Laws have been put in place that have made it incredibly difficult for people to rise out of their situation. We've talked about this before on the show, but housing discrimination. There have been laws and zones and those policies have kept people in place, and it's been a modern form of racism. And even now here in Minnesota today, you have legislators talking about zoning laws, which perpetuate segregation that took root decades ago. Now, on top of that, there's new research out of UC Berkeley which shows a widening gap in homeownership that leads to inequities in health, income, and even life expectancy. John W. Mallett, he grew up in the projects and works on this mission to support others in becoming homeowners. Now, John says people also need to shift their renter's mindset, which is holding many eligible homeowners back. John W. Mallett is America's Mortgage Coach. His book, Buy Your First Home Today. John's with us this morning. Hey, John, how are you?
I'm doing great, Corey. Thanks for having me on. Great to hear your voice.
Well, thank you for taking time this morning. This is an incredibly important topic, and one that I think, as we talk about another large piece of this, critical race theory, which has been talked about a lot this summer in terms of our education, and this is one thing that would fall under there, that there are laws that have been put in place that have created barriers for all sorts of Americans, but particularly Black Americans.
No question about it. That's exactly right. In fact, a lot of the zoning laws, zoning ordinances that you were talking about, and there's been a lot of undercurrent. I believe you talked about this on a show that you had with Dr. Price, where there's a lot of undercurrent. There's more going on underneath than we actually can see.
Yep.
And the fact is that there are, depending on what survey you talk about, there are anywhere from 1.7 to 3 million Black households today that can buy, and most of them don't know it.
Yeah, and that's, you bring up a good point, too, the cyclical aspect of this. I think for many families, it seems impossible, and so then, if you don't own a home, and then you have kids, and then they don't know that it's possible, and it just kind of also then becomes a cyclical thing in families.
Oh, Corey, your comment is just so right on the head. When you talk about children who grow up in homes that are rented, their life experience is totally different from those who own up in homes that are owned by their parents. In fact, the study showed that children who grow up in homes that are rented are 10 to 15% more likely to own a home than those who grow up in rentals. And there's very good reasons for that.
Mm. Yeah, well, okay, so how did you break out of it, John? You grew up in the projects in California. Like, how did you get to where you're at today, and what came about in your life where you saw what you see today?
Well, basically what happened is that I grew up in the projects. My parents, my father basically walked out when I was 8 years old, and we moved down to a little town called San Luis Obispo so my mother could complete her education. Mm-hmm. And so from ages 8 until 14, we moved 4 times, and we were evicted most times because we couldn't make the payment. And then at age 14 is why we went into the projects. And when I went into the projects, my eyes opened. And to be quite honest, I didn't think that there was racism with blacks. I thought it was the other way around because I was the kid that got picked on. And it wasn't until I saw a movie in school that talked about how we need to be more racially integrated. I think this was in elementary school or something, and showed a scene of some white guys picking on a black kid, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is not right. And then of course my mother, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when I was 12, and died when I was 18. So when I was in that environment, having that knowledge, is when I really began to see that, wait a minute, something's not right. And especially when I began researching, where I'm doing a project with HSRN Radio that is a black-owned station that works with the historically black colleges and universities. And we've done so much research. And when I started on that journey, I could see that there was some definite inequalities that people, I can't change the income disparity. There's a lot of things I can't change, but the one thing that I can change is to educate, inform, and inspire that there are millions out there that can buy but don't know it.
Right, yeah, and that gets at what you write about as the renter's mindset, which, can you explain that a little bit better? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so let's take an example. For instance, I'll give you an example of a child who grows up in a rental. Child who grows up in a rental home, basically the parent or parents will have conversations throughout their lifetime. Now, it's not in all rental properties, but most of the time it is, and that is where the parent will say, you know what, we got to move because rent is going up, or don't put a nail in that wall because we're not going to get our deposit back when we move. Now, when they say that, when we move, the child is going, wait a minute, I'm not in a stable environment. They may not think that, but they feel that in their body. And or the landlord is, the toilet's broken, the landlord's too cheap to fix it, so we have to fix it ourselves. All of these types of conversations going on. I did a test seminar with high school inner city students in Los Angeles, California. And they were high school students, seniors, and I taught them how to buy their first home. And not hardly any of them at that point had any idea that they could actually buy a home.
Right.
Versus somebody who grows up in a home that's bought, it's like, well, what color do you want your room painted? What pictures do you want to put up? I mean, it's an entirely different mindset, one that never thinks about home ownership. And a lot of them are misinformed. These myths out there that you got to have 20% down, which you don't.
Yeah, I want to get to some of those myths, John, here. John W. Mallett, his book, Buy Your First Home Today, johnwmallett.com if you want to read more about it and learn more about John here. That's one of the myths that you write about, that you can put as little as 3% down. But, John, even the fact that when you go to buy a house, right, let's just say, it's $80,000 or $100,000 or $150,000 or $200,000, right? That's your first home. Let's just put it in that range there. That sounds like a ton of money, right? I mean, it is. But I think that's something, too, if you don't have that, a family member or your parents, or you didn't grow up with it, you just think, well, I can't afford that.
Oh, man, yeah. I mean, that's where the myth is. See, I get people who call me, and the first words out of their mouth are, I know we probably can't afford this home, but we were looking and we want to find out if we can buy. And 9 times out of 10, within 60 days, they're in their house. It happens all the time, Corey. I mean, that's, your comment is right spot on. And when all of a sudden they realize, like, for instance, to buy a $325,000 home, which is in your area the median sales price, you got to earn about $58,000 a year to buy that.
Yep.
And a 2-income family can do that. You'd be surprised at what they can do.
Yep. So what are some of the other myths? You said you can put down as little as 3% down, not 20%. Are there any other myths out there that keep people from getting out of that renter's mindset?
Yes. You got to have great credit. A lot of people are fearful of what their credit report's going to say and what the lender's going to say. And that is a big myth. You can have credit scores that are lower. You don't have to have perfect credit. And the great thing about credit, that is probably the thing that most people don't understand more than anything else, is you can change it. You can make it better. And it can be done in a relatively short period of time. So there's hope. I mean, you can do this.
Yeah. Well, John will help you, too. Buy your first home today. That's his book. You can learn more, johnwmallett.com. John, I appreciate your conversation this morning. Thanks for taking time.
Oh, you bet, Corey. Great to be with you today. Thank you.
He is America's mortgage coach, a housing industry expert.
When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And at Wiener Schnitzel, when life gives you sweet watermelons, delicious wild berries, and refreshing coconuts, you make 3 thirst-quenching, ice-cold southern lemonades in flavors that you can't resist. And when life gives you crispy bacon, grilled onions, and savory sauces from Texas, Kansas City, and Carolina, you make tasty barbecue dogs. So this summer, when life gives you cravings for deliciousness, head on over to Wiener Schnitzel and try our Tastes of Summer with barbecue dogs and southern lemonades today.
If dog people made dog food, it definitely wouldn't look like dusty, burnt brown pebbles. Ugh. It would actually be food. It would be made with real, fresh meat and veggies gently cooked to preserve their nutritional value. You know, like food. The Farmer's Dog was created by dog people who cook and deliver fresh, healthy food. Try the Farmer's Dog and get fresh, pre-portioned meals tailored to your dog's needs. Tell us about your dog, build your plan, and get 50% off at thefarmersdog.com. That's thefarmersdog.com.
Mike Simpson here. It's getting warmer. You're drinking and using more water at home, but instead of a plastic bottle, fill up something reusable with filtered water straight from any tap at home. This is what you get with a LifeSource whole house water system. Every faucet has clean, great-tasting water. These whole house systems, maintenance-free, say goodbye to monthly filter changes. Your system reduces the odor and taste of chlorine from the water without using salt or chemicals. If you have hard water, they have a solution, and a filtered water shower that won't dry out your skin and your hair. With LifeSource, you're buying direct from the factory. The team provides a custom solution for your home, including the installation and customer service support. 37 years in Southern California now. All the products made in the USA. And LifeSource is currently looking for dedicated team members to join their growing team. Call them today for full service, full confidence in your water. 888-846-1945. 888-846-1945, LifeSourceWater.com. LifeSource Water. Taste and feel the difference.